now. Tomorrow is Bitcoin Pizza Day. Yeah, it's a historic moment there. They're celebrating the first real-world Bitcoin transaction tomorrow. That's for May the 22nd. A guy used 10,000 Bitcoins to buy 2 Papa John's pizzas. 10,000 Bitcoins. Back then, that was about 2010. If you flip over now to see how much that 10,000 Bitcoin is worth, that's about $1 billion. Back then, it was about $14 for this pizza. So 10,000 Bitcoins, the most expensive pizza to date at this point. Let's bring in Obin Nawuno now, strategy CEO, CBC Blockchain Services. Do we have Obina?
Yes, please enable my video.
Obina, can you hear me? Hello, Obina.
Yes, I can hear you.
Fantastic. So, yes, we're celebrating Bitcoin Pizza Day. That's what it's called. The most expensive pizza purchase ever. That was in 2010 for about $14. 10,000 Bitcoins was spent. What has happened since then? That was the first major transaction for Bitcoin. Do you think people are still using Bitcoin to buy stuff?
Yes, of course. People are still using Bitcoin to buy stuff. The only argument is that it may not have been as it used to be in the past, you know, because right now Bitcoin has a lot of value, and most people who are holding Bitcoin now are holding it as an asset, you know. But in the past, people buy a lot of stuff with Bitcoin. I think the whole idea of Bitcoin was to use it as a payment system, right? As an alternative cash system, you know. So that utility is still being driven. So I think that it's not as it should be at the moment, and that is one of the reasons for the whole circular economy initiative, because as Bitcoin kept appreciating in value, you know, it's kind of affected the transaction that is being done with Bitcoin, because most people now hold it as an edge to inflation, and then of course as an investment and an asset.
So fast forward till today, nobody's buying pizza with Bitcoin, really.
No, I mean, even the smallest units of satoshis is going to be worth a good number of Bitcoin. So I mean, with Bitcoin surging over $80,000, that's going to buy you like a truckload of pizzas, if not an entire pizza house.
Right, and now we did get news that Ferrari, they're accepting Bitcoin, you know, for purchase of their cars at this point. So, looking at 2026, do you think this is the same kind of regret? The guy that bought, you know, pizza with 10,000 Bitcoins, whatever the value of Ferrari now is, and you use a Bitcoin to buy it, would you still have the same regret about 20 years later?
I don't think it is relative, right? Because right now, Bitcoin is a thing of value, and it still has the potential to increase in value in the future, right? So it is relative, because if you are buying Ferrari right now with Bitcoin, Ferrari is not cheap, right? One Ferrari is worth more than 2 Bitcoin, depending on the model that you want to buy. Even the smallest model of Ferrari is worth more than 2 Bitcoin. So even if in the future you look at the worth of that Bitcoin, you would still see that you have probably spent it for something on value. The only thing is your ability to hold as an investor. It is not really the same situation with the man who bought 2 boxes of pizza 10,000 years ago, because as at then, Bitcoin was worthless. Imagine that the worth of a whole 10,000 Bitcoin was $41. And there is something that people miss in that story, which is the whole essence of why we even started celebrating Bitcoin Pizza Day as an event. What he did was the first time that value was attributed to Bitcoin. And he didn't start his ask at $10,000. He kept increasing it, looking for who would be able to accept this money from him, for pizza. And it got to $10,000 before 10,000 Bitcoin before he saw somebody. So it's a relative situation. It's like MicroStrategy, Michael Selo buying Bitcoin. There was some Bitcoin he bought at around 20,000, some of them below 20,000, some of them at around 50,000. So it's really relative when you compare that with what you can spend Bitcoin on now, and if you look at it 20 years later.
So what do you think investors can learn, from, or should learn, from this Bitcoin Pizza Day?
Yeah, I think that what investors can learn from it is that one is playing long term, right? And also, there is always that person who lays the foundation. There is always that person who lays the foundation. And if you believe in a team, believe in it with all your heart, right? What I see is this man who went out, Laszlo went out all of his way to convince somebody to accept Bitcoin as a means of payment. That is a demonstration of his belief in Bitcoin. And then his push to see it actually happen was part of a demonstration of his commitment to the achievement of the Bitcoin goal. And I think that these things are two very important things for every investor to learn. Now, you believe in Bitcoin. What do you do if the price of Bitcoin drops to $30,000 today? From 80 to 30, what are you going to do? Are you going to be shaken out of the market, or are you going to stick to your belief that,
right,
Bitcoin has a future and you believe in it? So it's very important for investors to be able to analyze and dissect these things.
All right. Thank you so much, Obina Iwono, the CEO, CBC Blockchain Services. Thank you for coming on today.
Thank you for having me, Ladi.